Here we go.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Dave TV for this 27th of January, 2014. What am I watching here?
Mr. Flanagan, what was that noise?
That was our engine, sir, and I'm happy to report that she's in fair running condition, and we're ready to get underway.
Thank you, Mr. Flanagan.
You're welcome now, Captain Tugg, sir.
Stand by to cast off, Charlie.
I've been standing by, sir. This is Elvin Swift at Tugg Harbor.
Wow. If you were a kid in 1963 and you lived in the Washington area, that's probably what you were watching. You had your TV tuned to Channel 5, WTTG. That's probably what you'd be watching. Captain Tugg, there, a guy by the name of Lee Reynolds. Why are we talking about Lee today? Well, sad news. A number of my sources are telling me that Lee is suffering from lung cancer. I don't know his age. Let's see if he looks like he was about 35 back in 1963, so that puts him up there. But anyhow, suffering from lung cancer and in a hospice in Arlington, and that's what we're hearing. So anyhow, when I get news reports about folks in the broadcast business and their health issues and stuff, I try to err on the side of privacy, So that's, we know a little more than that, but that's all I'm going to say right now. But, this is back in the day. This is back in the day, of course, where TV stations, today they just buy programs, syndicated programs, whether they're kiddie shows or talk shows or whatever, and that kind of thing. Back then, they didn't have that. So TV stations, especially, local TV stations would fill their afternoon hours and their morning hours with their own kiddie shows. There was no satellite to plug things in from. So you literally hired your own people, and you had a myriad of, all these local markets back in the 50s and 60s with their own. They would have the kiddie show hosts, and then they would have the afternoon movie guys, and then they would have the, the horror movie hosts like on a Saturday night and all that. And that kind of thing. So it was a different kind of world. And in Washington, you had people like Lee Reynolds doing Captain Tugg and a whole bunch of. I grew up in the Philadelphia area. We had a guy named Gene London and a lady named Pixan who did the morning. Sally Starr. They did these kiddie shows, and then there was a guy named Larry Ferrari who would do the afternoon movie matinee thing, where they'd play an old movie, and then he would come on during the breaks, and they would call people up and, ask them trivia questions and that kind of thing. It was just kind of the way television was done back then. And then by the time you hit the 70s, you started to get heavy-duty syndicated programming in there, and all that went away. A lot of those movie show hosts kind of went away, and kiddie show hosts and all that. But you had Ranger. Remember Ranger Hal? There I think he was on Channel 9, and Pick Temple, and a whole bunch of stuff in the Washington market, including good old Captain Tugg there on Channel 5. So tip of the camo cap to Captain Tugg. They're kind of not doing so well as we hear. So we'll keep you updated on Captain Tugg there, right here on DCR TV. One of the things I do at DCR TV, and one of the things I take pride with DCR TV is keeping memories of all these radio and TV people. There's 50, 60, 70 years of memories of, when you go back, all the way back to the 30s in local media, especially with radio. And there isn't any one place that's, keeping these memories alive. They're going to go. They're eventually going to go away, I think. And so one of the things I try to do here at DCR TV is keep those memories alive, and that's what we do with DCR TV Plus. Now I need to spend some time on DCR TV Plus and organize it a little better. Just when you run a website like this, you're doing everything. There's one ad. I think it's a Staples ad I see on TV where you see Dave is doing. I think the guy's name is Dave in the ad. Dave is the chief accountant. Dave is the chief writer. Dave is the chief, whatever. They see Dave all over the place. The same guy wearing different clothes, because he's doing 10 different jobs. And that's what you do here at DCR TV when you run it like this. I'm doing taxes. I'm doing the accounting. I'm doing the writing, the reporting, the web designing. I do the the whole shebang. And I would love to spend more time, just updating and keeping DCR TV Plus with all the memories there. It's a full-time job in itself, but I will get around to it one of these days. It's a lot of memories there. They're a little disorganized, but one of these days we'll get them organized. Won't we there? Okay, big news over the weekend was the shootings at the Columbia Mall. I was in the Salvation Army store in Herndon, and they had the TVs on over there. The tube TVs that you can buy for $5, and there was coverage of it there. I saw, but it is interesting. I don't know. There's one really good posting on the mailbag. Let me see. Let me see if I can easily find that for you. One posting on the mailbag for Sunday really clicked it with me, and I said, this is very true. And let me find it here. Let me go down. I don't know. Where was that? Okay, people talking about different Baltimore TV stations with best coverage. Here's what was interesting, though, was the fact that channels 2, 11, and 13 in Baltimore covered the event live. Channel 45, even though they had coverage, they didn't break into their infomercials and syndicated programming. Now, Sinclair has been notorious for doing that with Channel 45. They don't join the other TV stations in the market to cover live events like that, preferring, I guess, they would lose a little bit of money, wouldn't it, if they lost those infomercials. I don't know. I'm reading through. Okay. Anyhow, I can't find this. There was some. Okay, here it is. Here's the one thing that knocked my socks off. Somebody wrote, 3 people killed in Columbia, post covers with page after page, and broadcast media with hour after hour of coverage, mostly repetitive and gossipy blather. Same day, 2 people found murdered in D.C. Post has less than an inch on each. No broadcast report I watched mentioned either. Balance? ? Yeah, that was a good post. You often have 2 or 3 or 4 people killed in some of these bad neighborhoods in D.C., guns and whatever, and it barely makes the back of the metro section, and then you have 2 people killed in a shopping mall, which is tragic. Tragic. No, but, and all, it's just interesting how the media, this is commonplace, this is unusual. Even though more people were killed on a street in D.C., it doesn't make as much coverage as fewer people killed in a mall in Columbia. How do they decide all that? I guess it's the old thing about, one of the things you apply to news articles, their value in terms of how you play them up is how rare they are. And I guess people being killed on D.C. streets in bad neighborhoods is very common. It's not, something that happens all the time, so it kind of gets downplayed. Whereas, somebody being shot in a mall, like that is, and a whole bunch of people being locked in and that kind of thing is rare, relatively rare these days. So that becomes big news. But, whatever. News judgment is kind of a tricky little thing, don't you think? Julie Alexandria, that's her name, not Julie Alexandra. Julie Alexandria, like the town Alexandria, is leaving the Washington, is leaving Mid-Atlantic Sports Network and will not be back as their Nats reporter next season. That's what we're hearing. Julie Alexandria, she does a talk show up in New York where she's from, and she just says she wants to stay there. That means, though, that 4th year in a row, they've only had one person. Every year it seems like they have turnover there in that national sideline reporter there for MASN. So that will be interesting. Also, we're hearing that John Saraceno, I believe, Saraceno, Saraceno. That's how I would pronounce it. He used to work for USA Today. He's going to be doing Thrive Sports, offering news and commentary there for the Olympics in Sochi, which start next week. So there you go on that. One of the interesting things I was thinking, I've been doing a lot of thinking about WNEW now that they've approached their 2nd anniversary. Still don't have a lot of ratings. The one thing I've really been getting into now is a better signal for WNEW in Northern Virginia. 99.1 is based in Maryland over there in Anne Arundel County. Covers Baltimore market well, covers the Eastern DC Metro well. It does. You can pick it up in the Western Metro, but it's not a killer strong signal that you kind of need for a station like that. So I was saying, why doesn't CBS take 106.7, which has a transmitter there in Merrifield, Virginia, covers well into the state of Virginia and all the way into West Virginia in the Panhandle, great signal in the Western, Southwestern Metro, and pair that up with WNEW's 99.1 and put the newser on both signals. The other thing I was thinking, and one of the things that would break WNEW out of the pack in its battle, its tooth and nail battle with top-rated WTOP, is what if WNEW started offering zoned feeds? Now, I remember WTOP years ago, I talked to Jim Farley about this. WTOP has a bunch of different signals. They have 107.7 in Virginia and 103.5 in DC, whatever. I mentioned that to him. I said, why don't you do some zoned feeds? Put on the Virginia signal stuff that would be more interesting to Virginians, like more Virginia traffic. And on the DC signal, put more Maryland and DC stuff and whatever. I don't know. Zone it. And he said that's possible. We could do that. The problem is the ratings. Unless you put exactly the same content on both of your signals, they are counted as two separate stations. So, for example, if WNEW ran, a Maryland and DC feed on 99.1 and put some Virginia and traffic and news on 106.7, even though it was a small difference in the signals. Mainly the signals were 95% the same, but 5% different, for those local traffic things, it would still be counted as two separate signals, and then they wouldn't be combined in the ratings. So you'd have a breakdown for 99.1 WNEW and a breakdown for 106.7, whatever they would call that I was thinking NEV, the W for Washington, the V for Virginia. I don't know. WNEV, not 106.7. Even though it would be 95% WNEW, that 5% would cause Nielsen, now it used to be Arbitron, Nielsen to separate those two as two separate signals. So you wouldn't have them combined, and so that wouldn't look like, if you have the combined signals of 106.7 and 99.1, it would look like it was, way up there in the ratings. Well, do advertisers really care about that? If you just explain to advertisers, look, advertisers, WNEW gets this and WNEV gets this, add them together, and, ba-doom, ba-doom, ba-doom. But I do think that would be a cool idea for CBS to do. They have the two signals for WNEW and zone them. They would be 90% the same, but if you're listening to 106.7, you'd get more Virginia traffic and some more Virginia news on that. Whereas if you're listening to 99.1, it would be a little more Baltimore-centric and a little more Marylandish. You hear more Maryland coverage on it. I don't know. With the staff they have over there at WNEW, I really think they could easily do that. And I don't know, should that ratings technicality be a barrier to doing that? You could do that, and that would be your way of kind of saying, hey, why listen? WNEW needs to give people a reason to listen to them. And if you give them a better signal in Northern Virginia and you give them some local zoned coverage, I think more and more people are going to listen to WNEW, and that's the point, isn't it? And put JFK, as I said, on 94.7, which is a better inside the Beltway signal. And then, I don't know, merge Fresh and PGC, and who knows. But I really think that CBS, they need to focus on a better signal for JFK. They need to focus on a better signal for NEW, and they need to do that right away. They needed to do it last year. Oh, righty, Rudy, Rudy. All right, folks. That's all I know. That's all the big news here. All right, folks. Thanks for watching Dave TV for the 27th of January. Book 'em. What? Wait. Do I have something else over here to show you? Oh yeah, don't forget. I'm a star. Oh, by the way, the Grammys. Yeah, the Grammys. I was glad to see Daft Punk win with Get Lucky, because I did think that was one of the best songs of the year. So, I'm getting younger. I actually watched part of the Grammys last night, and I thought that was cool. Like that song a lot. All right, folks. Thanks for watching Day 2 for the 27th January. Book 'em, Dano.